Morning, everybody. Welcome. We have a full house this wonderful summer day. Thank you all for coming. I'll start by calling the meeting to order at 9 a.m. sharp. And I'd like to acknowledge that we are gathered on Treaty 6 land, a part of the many traditional territories of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit in Alberta. The town of Drayton Valley is grateful for the knowledge keepers and elders and the stories and teachings that they share of these lands and its people. I will now ask everybody to stand for the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land, glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Does administration have any additions to the agenda this morning?
I have one addition, a delegation from Blanchette for sign designs.
Okay, so 7.3, that'll be.
Perfect, thanks.
Any other additions? Is there a member of council that would like to adopt the agenda with the addition of 7.3 for Paul Garrity and Tammy Porter for signage? Thank you very much. Councilor Sheriffs, all in favor? That is carried. Any corrections or amendments to the July 12th, 2023 regular meeting of council minutes? Is there a member of council that would like to adopt the July 12th, 2023 regular meeting of council minutes? Councilor McGee, thank you very much. All in favor? That is carried. We have no proclamations this morning, as well as no public hearings. We do have 3 delegations this morning. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'd like to start this morning by recognizing that we have a special guest here this morning, Miss Lil Mayhew. Thank you very much for coming. We want to recognize you today and just thank you for everything that you've done in the community on behalf of all of council in the town of Drayton Valley. On March 18th, 1956, the Drayton Valley Royal Purple Lodge, number 196, was installed as a charter here locally in Drayton Valley. Lil joined in 1958 when she was just 21 years young, and she remained a member for 64 years, all the way to September 2022, when the Drayton Valley Royal Purple surrendered its charter. Today, we want to recognize your commitment in being part of this organization that you did so much for our residents and for our community. This, of course, is also recognizing that the Drayton Valley Royal Purple as a whole and the service and everything that they've provided to the community. The Drayton Valley Royal Purple was instrumental in many community projects, specifically related to our senior demographics. It's important to mention that the Drayton Valley Royal Purple was advocating and helping to make the Shangri-La Lodge a reality in 1972. This is where Lil herself resides now as well. They also promoted the establishment of the Wishing Well and leisurely apartments for seniors and participated in operating them up until 1994 under the name Purple Pansy Senior Citizens Association. Many activities have been initiated and executed for and with the seniors. Lil Mayhew was the secretary of the organization in the past years of its existence and took part in preserving the history and transferring this to the local museum, where it will be kept on record and be reviewed as a memory and important legacy. So on behalf of all of Town Council in the town of Drayton Valley, thank you for everything you've done for our community. And we'd like to recognize you today by taking a picture and presenting you with this small little certificate. So thank you very much if you want to come on down. Come on down. Okay, wow, lovely. Most welcome. Well, so much. Like,
Yes. In case anyone had just missed that bit of a conversation, but in that far picture is Bob Mayhew as the mayor when this particular building was put together. And so it's long lasting in that group photo there.
And what year was that?
I don't really remember that.
No pressure. 1989.
1989.
Wow. Yeah, very nice. It's nice that we can recognize individuals in our community and celebrate them here. So that's something new that we've started. Rick had kind of brought that forward and said, you know, something's missing from our council meeting. So we had a discussion about that and thought, you know, it's great if we can be nominating people, celebrating people. And also to the residents, if you have any suggestions or you know of anybody, you know, or anybody that's online, if you know of anybody that is celebrating maybe a 100th birthday or a special anniversary or somebody that's just gone above and beyond in the community, please reach out to us, let us know so we can be at least recognizing and celebrating them. So thank you very much, Lil, and thank you very much for coming today. We'll move along in our delegations to 7.2. We have Mr. Alan Cooper here with water and sewer bill. Good morning, Mr. Cooper, if you want to come on down.
Hi there.
Morning.
I was just looking to see if I could get some help with my water bill. It says on my water bill that during the evacuation, I went through 243 cubes of water. And, well, obviously I was evacuated for 2 weeks between May 8th and June 7th. So yeah, I talked to the people in the office there and they told me to talk to you guys. So what had happened is the end had popped off my water hose during the evacuation and there was nothing I could really do. So it just ran for around 9 days or so.
Okay, wow. So does anybody have any questions or comments for Alan? Sure. Councilor Sheriffs?
Was it inside your house? Did your house flood as well?
No,
or
it was outside, my outside tap.
Okay.
So the tap was on, but then popped off from the heat and then it just ran. Obviously, if I was home, I would have caught it, but
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
so it was a $1,260 water bill. On average, I use 15 to 17 cubes a month. So 243 is quite excessive.
Yeah, absolutely. Councilor McGee, did you have a question? Oh, that was your question. Okay.
1260 is the bill.
Yeah.
And typically, what is your bill, did you say?
On average, I use about 13 to 17 cubes a month. My bills are typically like 250, 300.
And just a question to administration, have we had other concerns or issues or people calling in about water bills that exceeded?
A handful, yeah. Not a significant amount, but several.
And what is the reason behind them? Water got left on?
Most of them are ones, yes, where the water got left on, like sprinklers or hoses outside that got left on.
Due to the
And not
wildfire?
expecting to be out for 2 weeks, you know, and then coming back and just having more consumption. That's most of the ones that were concerned about their bill was that.
So was the intent of, I guess, the water being left on as a means of fire suppression?
I think that some were and some were just wanting to make sure their grass was watered while they were away. I would say, you know, there was only a handful and there was a couple of them on one side and a couple on the other side for that, yeah.
And did you, Mr. Cooper, have somebody from the town come and investigate or look at the water? No?
No, I didn't.
You just called in?
Yeah, I called, well, once I got the water bill, well, the first month after the evacuation, I got my water bill. It was like $150. And then my next one, it was where they actually came and read the meters because they prorated everything the first one.
Yeah.
And then they came and then I got a $1,260 water bill. I was like, oh, okay. That's a little steep.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much. We do have you as a decision item coming up next, so you can sit down and then we'll have a little bit of discussion around it. So thank you very much for coming
you.
this morning. Okay, before we move into our decision items, we have one more delegation this morning as an addition, 7.3, Paul Garrity and Tammy Porter with Blanchett Signage Solutions. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tammy Porter. I'm the sales manager for Blanchett Neon. We are a 75-year Edmonton-based signage company.
Paul Garrity. I also work with Blanchett Neon as well.
So we've had the privilege of coming out a few times and connecting with your team members and your community members to discuss signage at the corner of 50th Avenue and Highway 22. We originally were brought in to discuss some opportunities for wayfinding in 2 different locations. I believe you had a budget that was already proposed for this and set aside. After some review and connecting with your team, there we go. Thank you so much. Perfect, thanks. After review and connecting with your team, it's our evaluation to maybe go a different direction that previously was planned. Just quickly go through some of these. This is just our team. Some of our services, like I said, 4th generation, 75 years. We offer everything from design consultation to fabrication, installation, and service and maintenance. And some of our past projects include the Town of Legal, Wheatland County signage. What we have taken from the team that we discussed is that there's an opportunity here to bring your community together, to be able to convey messages of what the community has to offer, and to go down a path that maybe hasn't been done before, gaining potentially some revenue stream for the town to be able to advertise on some of the billboards that we have here, the electronic message centers, which I'm going to jump ahead a little bit to the art. And then I'll get back into the critical factors. Do we have it? Okay, sorry. I think once you see the art, we'll be able to discuss it and kind of go around and you'll have more visual of what we're looking at. So we've created 2 options for you in 2 different locations. This is our first one. What's really cool about this and what I'm excited to share is that there's a QR code. So as your community comes together, you can scan your QR code and it brings you to all the links. So if it's the golf you want to look at and be informed about and find out all that Drayton Valley has to offer, it'll take you right to your golf links. If it's, you know, you're swimming in your community rec center, we can take you a link there. So it's something that we want to be interactive for you to convey the messages of what all the town has to offer. This particular spot We see the community coming together, picnic tables, being able to gather around, but also convey those messages. There was originally wayfinding that was proposed to take you to these types of places. These days, we're just not seeing that that is how the community is interacting. They're not stopping and not engaging on their phones. So you're going to be able to have an opportunity to go right to your website. You can have an app that's created to take you to these links. And with this comes opportunity, like I said, for you to subsidize the portion of the cost through advertising by, leasing out to your partners a piece of monthly, daily, quarterly advertising spots. So this was our first option. Second option is just a different type of sign, different interaction. Yeah, different location. And then an image there on the northwest corner of 50th Ave and Highway 22. So these are just renderings of opportunities, different ideas and concepts that we discussed with your team. I'm just going to jump back here. So conveying public swim, fire bans, different events that are going on. This is a way for you to interact with the community rather than just have a sign that isn't interactive. So we would have the electronic message center basically being the hub for all that your community has to offer. So if we want to jump back to the other one, is that possible? Now that you've seen the art renderings, what we've gone through and how we've come to this kind of will make a little bit more sense. Do you want to walk through some of these? So we had the pleasure of connecting with Shelley and with Bill and Nick and really taking in all that the town has to offer. There were many factors that were involved in our conversations. And, when we look at wayfinding and what the ultimate goal of it was, we believe this is a better option for you, is to merge the two budgets together, do something that is really going to be different, unique, collaborative with the community, engaging. And what we wanted to bring forward is there are some pros and cons to each location. When we look at the McDonald's site, for example, you could get the McDonald's patrons leveraging that space, but you also have a lot of people then stopping there. They are going to pull in, they're going to notice the sign, they're going to have an opportunity to sit down. We wanted to find a way to draw in the travelers that are going through Drayton Valley, but also the ones that are coming through to just stop and do one thing. Perhaps they're here for a golf tournament or a baseball tournament. Now let's get interacting. Oh, they didn't know about the pool. They didn't know, all the other things that Drayton Valley has to offer. So this was kind of cool in how we can convey those types of messages. So concerns around the McDonald's locations, it could be a stop for McDonald's and their patrons that may overshadow potentially, your community members and your visitors. Opportunity to create the park-like experience on the hillside, up on the Canadian Tire Hill there. That's really a cool spot that you guys have access to, that you could do something with that's exciting. The revenue generating portion. So I've had a little chart down here just to give you guys some examples of some lease terms, what you could generate and what the cost to Drayton Valley would be. These are very conservative numbers. We've seen other cities and towns generate upwards of $10,000 in revenue, specifically from advertising on these types of message centers. We have considered permit requirements, looked into that. Obviously, as it being a town sign, there is some bandwidth that your team would have to work with the permitting for that. We have had that in consideration for our drawings. The longevity of your investment. This is a major investment. We know that. We only use quality products. We have some verbiage in our proposal here that speaks to Daktronics. They're a supplier that we trust and that we use regularly, and they've been in business for a long time like we have. So that's why we're suggesting this specific product as well. you're going to be putting an investment, like I said, into one sign rather than two locations that really aren't serving a purpose to gain that engagement that we kept hearing from your team, to really put out what you have to offer. Your branding pulling together, it's really awesome. It's very cool. The story behind it is inspirational. I think it would be a shame and a disservice to not include that on there. So that's why we have that as like the main theme of the renderings. The QR code is something that no other town or city has right now. That would be very different for you. It's easy to use. It would be something that would bring a different engagement than just going to a sign and looking at it. You could even have links on there to historical sites and things like that. So the opportunities are endless for you to be able to showcase what your town has to offer. We would also propose that when we are using some subcontractors, we would love to work with the town and have local vendors be a part of that. So whether it's the bases, whether it's, you know, stone masonry work, things like that, that will be an intent of ours as well. And just the use of the EMC and connecting to it, and from your marketing team and social media team, it's super easy to do and use. So when we looked at the pricing, we had that on the art. You could see that you could get into some type of leasing. You don't have to do the full purchase price, so you could subsidize it with the leasing through the advertising, or you could also do a purchase price of it. Basically, this was coming from a place of engagement around some discussions to wayfinding, and the conversation evolved over a few times. We came out with the team, we drove around, we had very in-depth conversations, and we've proposed, you know, with our 75 years of experience, these types of signs rather than what you were going for in a direction before. Let's see, can we go back to the art? Is that okay? Please and thank you. And Paul can take a minute to just speak to the technical side a little bit more. And obviously we have the pricing down here in the right corner. So that's a factor, obviously for consideration. And I know you had the two budgets. So when we look at combining the two budgets, you could do a really wow factor combining those two rather than two separate entities of signs. Yeah, so I'll let you speak to a little bit of what it looks like.
Well, just talking about the actual structure itself, this particular one, it's a steel structure that gets cladded in the wood grain effect material. We also have identified the pulling together, obviously for the community, which we felt was very important. Identifying Drayton Valley itself. We have some stone product, obviously, as the base, that are kind of our typical materials that we use on these pylons or monuments. We also have identified some of the pictograms and activities as well. And obviously, Tammy mentioned the QR code that we feel is it's a valuable item that you can use when people come in and actually get up close to the sign, that they can actually use it to look at other events that are probably linked to your website, town website. The EMC, of course, obviously to identify any messages and activities that are going on around town as well. And also to maybe for your team to engage with the local trades if they want to advertise in it as a revenue generator.
And this just shows the possibility of what this location could look like. Obviously, right now it has the asphalt and things like that, but this could be a really unique gathering place for your community members and your visitors. So this is just a little bit of a rendering to start to give you an idea of what it could look like.
Yeah, and this is the one that's on the, is it the northwest corner? Yeah. It's just this again, we call it a pylon structure. Again, we got the masonry that is kind of a stone material. We're also identifying the pulling together, Drayton Valley, of course, identifying the town. And again, we got the EMC, electronic message board on this, again, to identify local events and maybe advertising for your community.
And noting on this one specifically, the associations, is they're such an important piece of the town and the community. So, you know, making sure that we honor and respect those two and having them included on the design was really important. And either of them can be interchangeable with the icons and things like that. And then just showing the opportunity up here too to identify and have that be a showpiece in the corner here of that intersection. When we chose these locations also, we really took into account the traffic analysis, the directions, visibility and readability from all four corners. We had looked at a couple other corners, and due to some you know, utility load issues and property line challenges, these were the proposed two that we found to be of best recommend to you and your team. Yeah, and that's it kind of in a nutshell. I do want to say it was a pleasure coming out here, and we've toured around with the team, and it was so awesome here that I kept saying to Shelley, I just want to live here. Like, you guys have an amazing community that you feel it as soon as you come in. And what was important to us is to communicate that through the signage. I want to have that be articulated, and this was our representation of doing that. And you know, it's something to really be celebrated, because we've been into a lot of communities, and the energy and the spirit you have here is definitely unique and something to be proud of.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation this morning, and I will now open it up for questions from council administration. Councillor Gamana?
Thank you. No, and thank you very much for your kind words about our community, first of all. Just trying to understand the vision that we had discussed was a wayfinder, especially near the Omniplex area and all that. So and I like the layout that you presented to us today, and trying to connect the technology as well. Is this going to be a touch screen, or is it just
No, not a touch screen. You'd be interacting through scanning through the QR code through your mobile device, and then that will take you to an interactive platform, whether that's your website, whether that's an app you have that could actually link into each of the icons that are identified. So if it's somebody who's looking for the hiking trails, when they scan it, they'll see that that can come up. If it's somebody who wants to check out your golf courses, then it'll take you right to the links there and give you all the information.
okay? And the screens, are they static images, or can they be rotated or changed?
Yeah, they can be rotated depending on what the community have as a guideline. What it could be a 6-second or an 8-second static image. It can only stay on there for a certain amount of time, though.
Okay. No, the reason that I'm asking is that we know most of us have phones now, and then scanning won't be a problem for most of us, but we have seniors and some individuals who doesn't, right? So if we have a rotation where we can actually put those information right on the screen.
Absolutely, and like Paul said,
as well.
that would be like a 6 or 8 second image, which will then target to the motorists. So as you're stopped at your stoplight, you could take that in during that time as well. So making sure that we are targeting all audiences, both who's visiting at the site, potentially being around, at the picnic tables and enjoying the community that way, and also people walking by, driving by at the intersection at the stoplight as well.
If I may, another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. About the cost that you break down here, I know, talking about paying it outright versus financing and all that. Just did my math on the 5-year, we are looking at double the cost, right? So,
Yes, yeah. And I mean, if you can afford to purchase it out, obviously that's the best economic way to do it with rates and things like that. It gives you an option to be able to, absorb that over 5 years. We don't recommend that way, obviously, for the financial reasons, but if it's something that makes sense for you because you have other money to spend elsewhere, we just like to give it as an option, but it's definitely not the most economic way to do it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councillor Evans?
So I'm assuming that screen is pretty well protected. I'm thinking,
Vandalism, weather, all of those things, yeah.
a rock or a bottle or something thrown at that
Absolutely.
will not smash it.
Yeah, what's really cool, I mean, it has the potential to be smashed. It's rare, but what they come in is they're modules. So they're squares. You can actually pop one out and replace it, and we would have that for you. We could also provide those with you, so you have a couple like in your hands, and then we'd have them to replace out as well. Technology has changed a lot. They are becoming a lot more resistant to those types of things. But to say nothing would ever happen to it, I couldn't do that. But it's very rare, actually, that we see damage caused that way.
They're pretty robust.
They are very, very robust, and they are designed for our climate as well. So they actually do better in the cold than the heat.
Okay.
Mhm.
And you said you'd looked at the availability of power at these sites, and that's not an issue?
No, you could definitely bring power. There'll be a cost there. That is not included in the pricing, is
Right.
bringing power to the site. But yeah, these two locations are both easily accessible to have power brought to them.
Okay, and I guess parking for the one up on the hill would end up being parking in the Canadian Tire parking
We
lot?
discussed that, yeah, and we weren't sure if there's opportunity to park over there, but then what we also talked about with your team is being able to maybe park across the street at the McDonald's in the section that has been asphalted, and
Yeah.
maybe put some type of like a sign there that would say, hey, cross the street, here's what we have to offer, even, have some story behind this or
Right.
whatever it may be, encouraging people to go. Because we actually took the team and walked across to see what that looked like from a logistics point of view.
Mhm.
But yeah, parking would probably be, your people going up to the Canadian Tire being in that, or
Yeah, one place or the other.
crossing, across the main street there. Mhm.
I guess I would just, when we looked at this at the Sustainability Committee, one thing that came up was the fact that we were considering putting it right there, was that we were kind of supporting McDonald's.
Yes.
Now, how big a factor that is, I mean, we got to find a place for it. It just happens to be there.
And there's pros and cons to that as well,
Yeah.
right? You're going to draw in from McDonald's, advertising, and that's where people stop.
Yeah.
And can you capitalize on that and get them to stop and interact with the sign and be able to draw in all that the community has to offer? Having said that, you get the McDonald's people sitting there and, potentially
Yeah.
garbage and things like that, and a hangout spot.
Yeah, it's a consideration, but
Mhm.
as well, like you said, some of those customers are going to be going to McDonald's and then eating there.
Exactly.
And taking advantage of the signs. So, yeah, I don't know if that's a real negative, but I'm sure we'll probably hear about it.
It's
Yeah.
definitely something to consider.
The nice part is we've got parking there.
Yes.
So if somebody's going by, with a truck and a trailer or something, got the opportunity to pull in there, with some room.
Mhm.
Okay, that wasn't really a question, more so a comment. Thank you.
But it's definitely a consideration for sure.
Other questions? Councillor McGee?
So my abilities on QR codes are not the best. So my guess is you have to go quite close to the sign. You can't flash it from driving by.
No,
Within
like,
a few feet.
yeah, the QR code would be a couple of feet. So that would be more so for
Yeah,
this
yeah.
location. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's why we've included it on this one. And so what will happen is you'll scan the QR code, it'll open up to a link that will take you directly there. It's probably going to be, 70 to 80% of your users will be able to connect that way. And then the rest will be communicated to through the electronic message center.
You're not making a recommendation, you're merely making a presentation at this point.
Correct. We're making a recommendation and a presentation based on our conversations that started with the wayfinding component of it. And as we moved forward, we really didn't feel or believe that that was the right fit for you as the conversations evolved, as we went through the community, as we saw some of the pain points in communicating location and your new pool and all of those things to offer. This is a great way to be able to demonstrate these things are here. It's also a great way for your residents and your local businesses to communicate what they have to offer as well. So we saw this as a win-win across the board for the town.
All right, and so finally, this particular piece of property that we're looking at, actually owned by the town. The hill, is that actually owned by the town? Do we know that?
The portion that we put the sign on is
I believe
owned
so,
by the
yeah.
town. We looked at the property lines. If you come up forward, it starts to transition. But when we went through the property line, where it sits right there in the rendering is the town's property.
We have the walkway going by it already.
Yeah.
I wanted to be sure of that because
There's a portion up ahead where it transitions, but where it's situated is definitely the town property.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your delegation this morning.
Thank you
and
so much.
showing us all the great pictures. We do have this as a decision item a little further along in the agenda, so we'll be having a more fruitful conversation and we'll have some other questions. I'm not sure if you're going to be sticking around or you're leaving, but we'll discuss a little bit later. So thank you again for
Excellent.
presenting and
Thank you
and
so much
coming this
again.
morning. And thank you, for your kind comments about our community.
It really is awesome. I love it here.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, so that wraps up our delegations for this morning, and we will move into our decision items. Our first decision item this morning is 9.1, Mr. Alan Cooper, in regards to his water sewer bill. I believe that Ms. Thompson is presenting this morning.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. So I brought an RFD forward. It does not have a ton of information on it because we weren't certain what the exact ask was in terms of a dollar amount. So I left it blank, but I'll go over the bill in question and then I can take some questions. So the cubes of consumption or the cube consumption was 243, leaving the water consumption amount at $558, and then the sewer fee at $668.25. And with the total bill, there's some other charges like the water fixed charge and then the waste and recycling utility fee. But the total bill coming in at $1,266.65. And again, we had not a whole lot, but we did have a handful of other people who had large amounts of consumption and that called and asked for more information, and all of them were, like, none of them were leaks inside the house or whatever. Like if there was a toilet leak and such issues, then we looked at those separately and made accommodations. But all the ones for the really large amounts of consumption was in this case, the hose being left on and then breaking in the process of being gone for 2 weeks or almost 2 weeks. And then the other ones were either people leaving their sprinklers on to keep their lawns nice and green, or in an attempt to keep their property wet to potentially save their property in the event of the fire coming through town. So I'll take any questions.
Thank you very much for that. Any questions for administration? Councilor Sheriff?
Just to clarify, Alan, so you left the hose on and left, and then the tap was on? Okay. Okay, I see. Thank you.
And then also just to get clarity that nobody from the town came by and did an inspection, right? When you noticed that your bill was, as to what had happened? Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. Counselor Evans?
Elvira, have we given people a break on their bill when it is like a running toilet or something like that?
Not typically, no. In the event of like the evacuation, if, I think there was one, but it was a really low amount of a credit that was given where somebody had a leak that happened during the course of them being gone and in the toilet, but,
In
No,
general,
in general, no, like.
it's
we
not
do
a
have-
policy we follow.
No, and administration can give small credits. Like we have a small amount that we can credit if the situations, it's like a total mistake or something like that. But no, we don't typically. It's the homeowner's responsibility to make sure in a typical day-to-day thing to make sure there's no leaks.
Okay.
Counselor Sheriff?
Have you contacted your insurance about this? Mhm. 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 But seeing how it is a breakage in part of your house, I think it might, I mean. Mhm. Mhm. Okay, just to clear, just question, yeah.
Counselor McGee?
So you arrive home and Alan, and you see the water running and you think, oh, where did did it just run out on, you have enough of a slope, it didn't run into your basement or? So you saw it when you got home and water everywhere. I'm not going to ask about that.
Go ahead, Ms. Thompson.
Just to add that we have been instructing people that come for the water, or like these situations, we have been saying to contact insurance. And we also contacted our insurance to just to further get information on for our customers to see what kind of coverage they would have to have in order to get something like this covered. And so it all, just like any other type of insurance, it depends on your own policy. But there are, if you have a good insurance policy for your home, something like this would be covered. So that's what we were telling people when they're calling to contact their insurance. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Oh, and sorry, one more thing is we were unable to, with the 2 weeks being gone, we were behind on reading. And so we had to, in order to not skip an entire month of billing, we did have to prorate most of our cycles for that month, just because we had missed 2 weeks of reading. And so, yes, a lot of people got prorated bills, which is why the next month is when we saw the actual usage. So yeah, that did happen.
Okay, thank you for that. For myself, yeah, this is unfortunate. $1,260 for a utility bill is not something that anybody wants. it's tough for me to make a decision on this because without an inspection, somebody actually seeing what, the damage was and that the hose broke or that there was pictures taken, when I look at this, I guess against somebody that maybe decided to leave their hose on for water suppression during a wildfire, right? So I think of, how do you forgive in one case and not for the other or things like that. I would encourage you to reach out to your insurance and, see if you can put a claim through because I would think that this would fall under that. And, as a municipality, in my opinion, we have to be mindful of, the forgiveness that we do and the circumstances and how that is, because then it sets that precedence for all the residents, right? So we have to be very careful of that. If there's a way that you can go through insurance, I would say, do that. And yeah, it's just, it's not something that I can look at forgiving because of that. I don't know or have the evidence of what really happened here, right? So it's difficult. I would ask that, perhaps administration could work with you if you want it to go on a payment plan or look at, structuring a way to help pay this back or something, if you're struggling to get it paid right now and something like that. But that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not sure of where, how anybody else feels. There is a motion if there's no other questions that I'm needing a counselor to make though today. So, Counselor Clark?
Yeah, I guess the difference for me here though is accidental versus intentional, right? It wasn't left on sprinkling the house or anything like that. To me, this is sort of like, water bursting in your house. Like you have no control over that, right? So, I mean, at the very least, I would suggest the sewer bill. I mean, if it's not running into the sewer, why would we charge sewer charges, right? So, from that perspective, I think that I'm sort of opposite of you in a sense that I think, again, intention versus accidental, right? So.
Counselor Cabana?
Thank you. I'm torn a bit as well. It's unfortunate that happened. My concern is about the precedents that we are going to set. Having said that, it's during the evacuation. Hopefully, we don't have to go through that again, and we would not have this kind of incidents going forward. I think I'm a bit on the page as Councillor Clark, where if there's something that we can do with having a conversation with administration, I'm gonna, I guess, leave it there rather than we are trying to sort things out here itself, because if we do that here, again, I'm concerned about the precedents that we're gonna set.
I just wanted to make a comment on Councillor Clark's concern about sewer. So the way our water usage outside the house works is that an amount, we can't measure how much of it goes into storm and sewer, but with the likelihood being that the most of this water ended up in the sewer based on it running right beside the house into the Weeping Tell into the sewer. So that is why we structure the water, the sewer charges are tied to the water consumption for that reason, because whether it be equal amounts or 2/3, municipalities kind of do it slightly differently, but most of them, I don't know if any of them can measure how much goes into the sewer exactly. And so that's why the sewer charges consumption is based on the water consumption, because we don't have a way of 100% measuring what goes into the storm and what goes into sewer. And we don't have storm lines everywhere in the town either. And then even if it's outside on the lawn, some amount of that is going to end up in our sewer. So just to make a comment on how our sewer charges work.
Thank you for that. Councillor McGee?
I'm with Councillor Clark on the issue of intent, and I'm also the discussion I think we're having back and forth between Mr. Cooper and administration is meeting halfway. I'm there. And I think that's and if it sets a bit of a precedence, the precedent is set on the fact that people are evacuated and could not come home. And that's that, as Councillor Gamana suggested, that's not usual. And so I'm there for, and if people come in and say, I would like the same reference, because I had another person call and say they had an issue with the sewage charge. They had left their water on, but they were concerned about the sewage charge. So then I think, okay, well, I get it. Let's meet halfway.
So, sorry, I'm just for clarity, are we suggesting intent matters in this situation for other people then?
I would say yes.
Okay, so then this would be a unique circumstance here.
So how much would, if we took everybody that has a water bill in the community and subtracted their sewage rates from when we had the wildfire, what would that amount to? Because that's what I'm thinking we would have to do in order to do the same here.
It'd be, if we were to apply this to everyone, not just individuals with high consumption and or individuals coming and requesting it, it'd be a lot of money. I don't know what that amount would be, but it would be thousands upon thousands of dollars for sure.
Because I don't see a difference if we're taking out the sewage because we were evacuated and it was something that was out of our control, right? So why should anybody pay for sewage when we weren't here? It's just my question, right? And I feel that that's something that we would get. So I'd want to be prepared of what that amount is. If we're willing to do this, consider this today, then I think we have to be willing to consider that for how many other residents in the community, right? Councillor Gamana?
Thank you. Here's my suggestion. Of course, we can't do that. That's going to be a issue for if we open up for everyone, right? But my suggestion is that we had a little bit of a few people that coming and they had over normal consumption. I think in this case, what's fair, just my thoughts is that, the normal consumption or maybe a little bit over, that is, will be the cutoff and he has to pay for that. And then the rest we can look at as water. And I think we will eliminate the issue of doing it for everyone if we do that way. Just my suggestion. Thank you.
So you're saying just give everyone a rebate?
What I'm saying is that because this is an overconsumption, there's a regular consumption amount that the household that used for the last year. It's an average that we can look at. And for the rest of the community, it's the same. There's an average. And if there's anything exuberant like this, with the unintentional consequences that happened, then you can look at what it is and then look at the sewer portion only, right? And see if you can reduce few $100s. I assume Mr. Cooper is not here to look at the whole thing, but to look at if you can reduce few $100s from that.
So if we applied it to residents, not businesses, only residents with higher consumption, and then just the sewer portion is what you're saying. The sewer portion of over the top consumption during the event of the fire. So we are catching people that purposely left their hose on in that scenario. I'm not saying that council can't choose that, but that's the part that we're missing is we would have to then.
Accidental versus intentional,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it'd be up to us to determine the story, I guess, or the claim. But yeah, I do understand that. In this situation, the half of the sewer would be $334.
Councillor Evans?
Yeah, just looking at the various scenarios suggested, I think that indicates how complicated this can get and what a slippery slope it is. I think we're in a unique situation that we were evacuated. I think those folks who decided to leave their sprinklers going should pay for that. That was their decision. In this particular case, and you can see how much we're struggling with this, simply because of that, because we don't want to then have everybody who feels they used a little too much water to come in and get a refund. I'd be for refunding half the sewer, something like that. I think the vast majority of people who were away probably used almost no water, very little, and had very little sewage charge either. So I'm of the mind that we don't apply it across everybody.
Yeah.
We try and give this gentleman a bit of a break. And I hope you understand that we can't come out here gangbusters and give you back 3/4 of your bill there. Because ultimately it is your responsibility to shut off your tap, or I realize that it was unintentional and it burst. But ultimately it's up to you to make sure your outside tap is off. So in long story short, sorry, I'm being a little long-winded here. Yeah, I'd be for refunding, say, half the sewer, and moving on, and hoping we don't get a bunch more requests. But if we do, then we'll have to deal with them on a case-by-case basis, I guess. That would be my recommendation. I can make a motion if you like.
Yeah, or the motion to, I guess, specify that in the way, because you said that we have had residents call in, so you would know that if somebody called in and said that, repeat the name of that resident, that, yeah, I left it on as a fire suppression, now I'd like to have the same. If we're going with 50% or whatever that percentage is off of the sewer, then that would have to be for those that accidentally left it on and it didn't go over what their usual consumption was for the year. Yeah, I think it'd have to be specific to be able to mitigate anyone else coming forward, for sure.
Could we do perhaps 2 motions? Is that one for this one specifically, and then one for council to direct administration on how to treat any others that might come out possibly? That would be my suggestion.
Yeah,
Are you going to be able to manage that with just a motion from us, these other 4 or 5, or what are you looking for that in the future? Again, they intentionally left it on. This gentleman unintentionally had his host let go.
Right.
So the other ones were intentionally left on to
Correct.
keep their properties
Yeah.
wet,
Uh,
more or less.
The other motion would just mostly be for if any other people would come out knowing that a motion
So,
has been made. So I would say to have in the motion that the word accidental or unintentional, and then
administration may refund up to 50% of the sewer.
Yeah, in an accidental overconsumption situation for the evacuation period.
Yeah, and I think we need to make that specific, that it's just through the evacuation because they didn't have the ability to come back
Yeah.
and turn it off. In this case, I'm sure if he came home after work and saw the hose going, he would have shut it
Yeah.
off and it would have been done.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that wasn't available. So, yeah, I'd be okay with that, I think.
yeah, and then just in the motion to make sure that the word unintentionally, right?
And residential.
And residential. Yeah. Yeah. So you're going to make 2 motions then? Or a motion, or? Sure.
Not all of it. Do you want me to quote a address or account number, or just Alan's name?
282485004, and let me give this to you.
82500. Okay. I'll make the motion that that administration refund half of the sewer charge that was levied against account number 2824850 dash or .04 in the amount of $334. Is that it? That's, I kind of lost it there once I got to
Uh,
the end.
Due to unintentional,
Due to unintentional water usage during the evacuation. That catch it all?
Pam, did you get that?
Clear as
Can you
mud?
read it back?
That works? Okay, you want me to do the second one now?
Well, let's do this one and then I'll ask, this motion has been made. Any comment, question, or debate on this motion? I'll just comment that, yeah, it is a hard decision when concerns or issues like this definitely come forward because we have to not only look at this issue that's presented to us today, but we have to be prepared for the community and what may, what may happen there. I think that if we go ahead with the second motion there, then that will definitely help with any other residents that are coming forward. And like Councillor Evans had suggested, I think that, the majority of people will have a lesser usage period on their water bills coming forward. So with the handful that, that we may see, then there will be the denial of the intentional versus the unintentional for sure with the next motion. So with that, I can get behind this motion now. And yeah, it sucks when you have a bill like this and yeah, I guess we try to do what you can do, but we always have to think of everybody else in the community as well. So with that being said, if there's no other comment, question, or debate, I'll then ask all in favor. And that is carried. And now we're looking for a second motion to direct administration for any other concerns or issues that may come forward. Sure, go ahead.
I'll make the motion that administration may refund up to half the sewer charges for unintentional significant water usage during the evacuation
Wildfire
time
evacuation
for residents.
yeah. Pam, can you read it back, please?
Councillor Gamana, you're kind of humming and hawing there. If you can make it more clear, I'm all for it.
Pam, can you read it back, please? I think Councillor Gamana has a, yeah, significant unintentional or what did you say? Overconsumption, yeah. I think that's what you said. That's what you said, Rick. It's pretty certain that's what you said. Overconsumption, yeah. No, you have to leave unintentional in there, yeah. Overconsumption. Yeah, and administration can deal with that.
I just want to make sure that we have the residential piece in there as well. So I don't know if some counselor needs to make a friendly amendment.
Let's read it back again, please, Pam.
So I have that council direct administration up to half the sewer charges for unintentional water use during evacuation, but if you want me to add residential?
Overconsumption. Kind of a group.
Yes, so Councillor Evans has made a motion directing administration to deal with any other concerns or water overusage that may come forward. There is a motion on the table. Any comment, question, or debate on that motion? There is none, then I'll ask all in favor. And that is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. It is 5 after. I think what I'll do is I'll call Mr. Peter Vanadown. I was going to call a break, but I'll call Mr. Peter Vanadown and then I'll call a break. Good morning.
Morning, Madam
This is our
Mayor.
second decision item for text amendment to land use bylaw 2020-12D for direct control number 1 district and redistricting part of the northeast quarter of 849-7 west of the 5th meridian from R Gen to Special Park and DC1.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. Before I get started, I just wanted to introduce our new development planner for the town of Drayton Valley. Doug Woodliff is behind me. He started last week, and so he's busy away working on new files.
Well, good morning and nice meeting you. We had an opportunity, a few of us, to meet you just prior to the council meeting. So welcome to the town of Drayton Valley. We wish you the best of luck and many successes and for tons of development and planning to be happening. And we also have a lot of work ahead of us. Our municipal development plan, we're looking at reviewing and updating pieces of our land use bylaw. And there's been lots of businesses that have been opening in the last couple of years. So we welcome you and like I said, wish you the best of luck in everything. Yeah. Perfect.
Just wanted to note that Doug comes to us most recently from Leduc County, where he was development planner, and previous to that, actually Brazeau County, where he was development planner as well.
Got a lot of Brazeau County staff here.
Moving on to the text amendment and redistricting. So this is a follow-up to council's previous discussions on the lands, most commonly known as the DB lands. This bylaw amendment does three things. First of all, it amends the current direct control provisions in the land use bylaw to clarify and provide process to what happens in a direct control district. Secondly, it creates a DC1 district, which is specific to these lands. And thirdly, it redistricts the DB lands to be able to accommodate the enlargement of the park area. So working with community and recreation services, we were able to delineate where a park line was or should be. And so that is the line for the districting. And so the remainder of the lands would be redistricted to direct control 1. And the direct control 1, the intent of it is to provide future planning for those lands for a number of uses that council would then have a master plan done for it when it's ready to be developed, and allows for development to happen in a more systematic way of development than just leaving it in its current state. So those conclude my remarks, Madam Mayor. The recommendation is the council give first reading to bylaw 2023-05D.
Thank you very much for that. Any questions for Mr. Fana this morning? There's no questions, then I am looking for a councillor to make a motion. Councillor Sheriff?
I'll make a motion that council give first reading to bylaw 2023-05-D as presented.
Thank you very much for that. Any comment, question, or debate on the motion? I know that there's been a lot of conversation around DB lands and the future of it and what we kind of want to do. So I think with moving in this direction, then it allows us just the ease of those choices when we start to move towards that. And like you said, developing a master plan and a concept plan of what that's going to look like. So it's good to see this come forward. There is a motion on the table and I will ask all in favor, all opposed. That is carried.
The second item is a land use bylaw text amendment 2023-06D. Working with our enforcement people and looking at the community standards bylaw, we have identified some changes where there's currently some conflicting and redundant sections in the land use bylaw that conflict with the community standards bylaw. This proposed amendment would clarify or remove those redundancies from the bylaw. And so the recommendation here, Madam Mayor, is that council give first reading to bylaw 2023-06D. And those conclude my remarks.
Thank you very much for that. Any questions for administration? Councillor Clark?
Yes, thank you for that. Can you give, like, what's an example of a conflict or redundancy there? That kind of hamstrings bylaw.
So, Madam Mayor, so we'll take, let's say, derelict vehicles or motor vehicles. So, well, that shouldn't be in the land use bylaw, but traditionally has been in the past. But with community standards bylaws, that's the area where you would enforce that type of a measure. Land use bylaws are intended to deal with land use issues, not derelict vehicle issues or motor vehicle issues. So that's one point where that clarified. And then right now, because it's in two different bylaws and it says two different things, that's where it becomes an issue for us to enforce.
Councillor Sheriff?
Just a little correction, I think. At the proposal and background information, it says 2020 12D, and in the recommendation, it says 2023-06-D.
I believe the land use bylaw number is 2020 12D, and then the amendment has a new number.
Councillor McGee, do you have a question?
Do.
Okay.
So we have a bylaw in place. Let's say, for instance, if we have a bylaw that suggests that you cannot park your trailer, your RV or your trailer unhitched for more than 72 hours, that all stays in place.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So in fact, there's a follow-up to the next item or on the agenda today as well from Community Services in terms of dealing with the Community Standards Bylaw and the amendments to the Community Standards Bylaw. So
Right.
these two amendments work hand in hand.
Right, and so I received a complaint on Monday about my next door neighbor, noxious weeds, not looking after their property. Can somebody do something about that? We also have that in place. Okay, thanks.
Is there a member of council who'd like to make a motion if there's no other questions? Councillor Evans?
I'll make the motion that council give first reading to bylaw 2023-06-D as presented.
Thank you very much for that. Any comment, question, or debate on the motion? And I'll ask all in favor. That is carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Bana. We will call a 10-minute break and we'll reconvene at about 10:10. We will reconvene our meeting at 10:20 a.m. and jump back into our decision items. We are at 9.4, Mr. Thompson for Community Standards Bylaw Text Amendment 2023-01-P. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, Council. So this morning, I'm here to do amendments to the Community Standards Bylaw. As Council is aware, the Community Standards Bylaw was enacted in June of 2022, and we have been using it for the last year with a lot of success. We've done a lot of positive things with it. So it has also been to the court system and has been challenged, and we were successful. So that tells me that we have a pretty good, solid bylaw. So in the process of using it, there has been a few loopholes that have come up that we would like to close or like to amend. And so today I'm here to go through those with council and then seek to get some resolution on those. So the first one that I'd like to talk about is just a minor change to the wording so that, and it's in regards to weeds. And we would like to change the wording from restricted or prohibited to prohibited or noxious. And the reason why we'd like to do that is so that it aligns with the Alberta Weed Control Act. So we are just changing the wording so that the legislation aligns with the provincial statute. So it's a relatively minor change, but that's what we're seeking there. The next one has come up. We've had a situation in some of our parks where we've had people that leave trailers in our parking lots of our parks. And it's not necessarily camping trailers, but it's work trailers or other types of trailers. So we would like to amend the bylaw so that it will say in that it will under section 38.3 that we leave, or sorry, that at any time when an area of parkland is closed, to read enter, be in, or leave a motor vehicle or trailer in a parkland between the hours of 11 and 5. So it's just to add trailer as part of that, as opposed to just vehicle, which we've had in the past. The last section that we would like to change is to add section 22.1, and it would read, no person shall park a vehicle or trailer on municipal parkland as defined in section 37.1, and add under the fee schedule, the amount of the fines should individuals do that. The reason why we are asking for that addition into the bylaw is that we've had situations where our public works people are unable to mow parts of our municipal property because there are trailers and there are vehicles parked on those areas. Consequently, we'd like to close that loophole so that we can have legal means of having people remove those trailers and those vehicles from our municipal land. So that's why we are asking for those changes. So there are a few minor things. So today we are asking for council to do all 3 readings, if you're comfortable with that. And that will enable us to be able to move forward with enforcing these legislations right away. So I will leave that with council and decide what you'd like to do.
Any questions for Mr. Thompson this morning? Councillor Evans?
Yeah, I'm good with the changes. I'm just curious, what part of the bylaw did you get challenged on that went to court?
It was in regards to unsightly property.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Councillor Gamana?
Yeah, thank you. Just on the 2.3, for my clarification, so no person shall park a vehicle or trailer. So how do we envision we're going to do the enforcement? Like, are we need to be parked overnight, or is it parked right away?
Right. It's usually what's happening is people are leaving those trailers parked for several days and through the night as well as through the day, which is becoming problematic because people that want to use the park during the day, they're being hampered because there's no parking because of these trailers are parked there. So that's why we want to amend that.
Okay. So we'll probably give a warning and then.
Right. Yep. Our normal standard operating practice. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Questions? I need a motion. Councillor Gamana?
Make a motion that council gives first reading to bylaw 2023-01-P as presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And we're doing all third and final reading today. You're
If we can, if council's comfortable doing that.
Perfect. So there was a motion that council give first reading to bylaw 2023-01-P as presented. Any comment, question, or debate on the first reading motion? And Councillor McGee.
So I think I jumped the gun. Peter was there because I was looking at this particular text changed and asking the very same questions that we still have in effect. That if you have a trailer, you can't leave it unhooked and parked in front of. And so, but it happens so often that our enforcement is limited at best, I think. And I see we're addressing a more serious problem.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And but everything else is still in place.
Yes, everything else is still intact.
And I'll ask all in favor. That is carried. Is there a council that'd like to make a motion for second reading? Sheriff.
I'll make a motion that council give second reading to bylaw 2023-01-P as presented.
Thank you very much for that. Any comment, question, or debate on the second reading motion? And I'll ask all in favor. That is carried. And I need a member of council to make a third reading motion, please. Councillor Evans?
Yeah. Right.
Or consider, consider giving third reading. Yeah, Councillor Evans?
And that's the motion.
Yeah, that's the motion, yeah.
I'll make the motion that council unanimously agrees to consider third reading of bylaw 2023-01-P.
Thank you very much for that. Any comment, question, or debate on the motion? All in favor? That is carried. And can I get a member of council to make a motion for third and final reading? Councillor Evans?
I'll keep rolling here. I'll make the motion that council give third and final reading to bylaw 2023-01-P as presented.
Thank you very much for that. Any comment, question, or debate on the motion? And I'll ask all in favor. That is carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you.
And we'll move along to 9.5. Ms. Thompson, Q2 financial report and update. Oh.
Good morning again. So I'm going to go over the Q2 financial report and capital summary, and then I'm going to touch on our citizen request portal, just to kind of update council on how customer complaints and resolutions have been going. So first, we get to the beginning of the Q2 report. Net revenue for the general revenue section, we're behind a little. Most of that is due to the timing of when franchise fees are being paid, so there's no concerns there. And then under general administration, the general administration line is slightly over for the year-to-date budget, and that's partially due to projects completed, like projects that are completed ahead of the second quarter, where we spent more money in May and June, and then the rest of the year will be less money, like the gala and other things like that, where they're not perfectly spread through the 12 months, whereas the year-to-date kind of assumes that we're spending equal amounts every month. The net is a little ahead, the net of the general administration, but not a ton. Then we move to protective services. So at the top, you see police revenues is down, and that's because of the timing of the grants that we receive, and we usually don't receive those till the fall. And then other than that, the revenue section is what we would expect. We move on to expenses, and the police expenses, the invoice for Q2 for the RCMP was received later than normal. So it's just a timing thing. We're not that far ahead when it comes to expenses, although that'd be great. Then we move down to disaster and emergency expenses, and there you will see that we are significantly over budget, and that is because of the Buck Creek wildfire. So those are all the expenses that most of the expenses of the Buck Creek wildfire are being fronted by Brunswick County. We're in unified command with them. But there is some, like our own wages and overtime and things like that, that obviously get paid by us and will get reimbursed later. So when it comes down to getting refunded for those amounts, this amount will be less than that. But at the end of the day, there will still be a cost to the town for just some expenses that were incurred that that aren't eligible under the grant. Move on to transportation. So revenues, nothing really to note there. Expenses, so you see that The common service is a little bit over budget for year to date, but those are mostly just the allocation of where the wages were spent are a little different than we expected. You get to roads, streets, and sidewalks, we're significantly under budget to date, and that's due to a large amounts of our road projects being done in June and July, and a lot of them we don't actually get invoiced for until July or August. So we're like crack sealing, line painting, all those like big projects that we do. The invoices usually come in a little bit later in the summer, and that's why it looks to be like a significant savings right now. Not expected. Like we're when I looked into this, we are right about where we would want to be. Down to utilities, so we have water is right kind of where we were expecting. Sewer and waste are the revenue for both of those is slightly behind, but so are the expenses. That's an accrual timing thing, so nothing unusual to note there. Overall, at the bottom, net revenue amount is we're actually slightly ahead of where we were budgeted to be as of June. We move to community services. So like I briefly go over this every time, so you might be bored of hearing it, but FCSS, it's hard to budget for. We don't know the timing of when revenue will come in, but when revenue comes in, it also goes out. So you'll see the revenue is higher than expected, the timing of grants coming in, and then you'll see the spending is higher than as well. So they kind of travel together. ECDC slightly ahead. This is the first whole year, I believe, where we had the grant, the new subsidy program was, it was brought into play at the beginning of 2022, but we were still working through some of the issues at that point and signing agreements. And this is the first full year where the agreement was in place. And we're seeing the revenue slightly higher than we budgeted. And on top of that, we are expecting some insurance money for the lost revenues during the evacuation as well. So that will be higher actually once that's received. And then when you move down to expenses, like I mentioned, FCS is higher along with their revenues being higher. And then ECDC slightly higher as well along with their revenue. And then affordable housing also higher. We had some unexpected repairs that were needed to be done there. And then when you go down to the bottom, net expense is very similar to what we budgeted, slightly lower. Planning and development. So our revenues are right in line where we would expect to see them. This is, of course, the CTC, economic development planning. And then the expenses are lower than we expected, largely because of vacancies and projects that have not yet been completed for the year that were budgeted. That includes planning and economic development. And then, of course, education. We did not have so many students that are zero fee funds that were allocated haven't been used up as much as we would have, as much as we budgeted for. And then we move on to Parks and Recreation. So net revenues at the top, very, very close actually to what we expected, a little bit behind, but not a whole lot, which is pretty good. Pretty happy about that. And the thing that I would like to draw attention to is the pool. Seeing that they are ahead of what we budgeted for revenues, which is really, really exciting. They're doing really well. The programming, all the programming, or the maybe not the programming, but the swim, the public swim and everything has been overutilized, like more than we expected in terms of revenue, and we're actually ahead. You will see that in the expense, the pool expenses are higher as well. And if council will remember that we chose to open the pool for longer hours and such to increase the usage, which required more wages. So those two went hand in hand, but I'm very happy with the results so far. And then at the bottom, you'll see library and culture. You'll see it looks like we're over budget, but that the budget year to date, the expenditures are spread throughout the calendar year. but we pay them in quarterly amounts. So it looks like we're over budget, but that's a timing thing. And I'm hoping to find some time to go in and adjust the way that budget is set up, because it's not an accurate depiction. So library and culture, we spend very, very close to the exact same amount every year, exactly what we budget, because we don't run the library, we simply contribute. So we don't see that go over budget really. And then we get down to the other, all that's in there is the operating contingencies, and we haven't really spent anything out of there. Some training that council approved a few years ago, or not a few years ago, I guess last year. And that's it. That's all that's in there. And we get to the final summary, and you can see net year to date, we are $547,000 ahead of budget, meaning we're doing well. Some of this, some of it is savings, and some of it is simply the timing of projects and the timing of when more costs are paid for and more invoices come in. I would like to think that as much as possible, we like to get invoices in a very timely manner, but with a municipality and an organization this large, sometimes it takes a little while to get all the expenses in. So sometimes there's a month delay as well. But overall, very pleased with how the team is doing. Even with the challenges that we went through in June, or in May. Still very, very happy with how the team is performing and working on projects. And yeah, I think they deserve a shout out. Any questions on that before we move to capital?
Any questions for Ms. Thompson? Councilor McGee?
I do have, I want to just go to page 30, and it's around affordable housing. So the 114,000 that we have of affordable housing, that's an expense for Urbanata and for our work that we have in that. So, and so we were at 111, so we're just over a little because we had some water leaks, I think, and some things that we needed to do. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, it's affordable housing includes our Urbanata, our Cadence Court and Center Court units. So all our affordable housing units. And correct, we had, you see that the revenue is slightly ahead too, and that's not actually because of our usage or our vacancy rate. It is because we did have insurance funds come in. So it looks a little off when you look at it, but yes, we did have significant expenses, but they were covered by insurance, which is why you see that the revenues also being high, correct?
Right. And so if somebody was to ask me the question, does our affordable housing cost us money as a taxpayer every year? My answer is yes.
We plan for it not to.
Okay.
And so we're essentially, when the grant for the units was when we first entered into that agreement with the government, we got those grants. There was some excess funds that we put into a reserve that were supposed to pay for any significant expenses that, unplanned upgrades or whatever that might be, or to pay for a year when things might not have been as good, right? So it's like a slush fund. Last year, I believe, I'll have to go back and look, was the first year where we had no more reserves left. So we're borrowing from the reserve essentially. So the answer is we haven't taxed anyone for an affordable housing, the affordable housing. We have not taxed for that amount because we plan for it not to cost. But it has to be very intentional in this year to start making sure that happens, because we don't have really any slush funds left. But no, it's not supposed to cost the taxpayer, and we have not taxed for that to date.
And I asked that question because the mayor and I were just discussing that the minister, Jason Nixon, has announced another tranche of provincial funding, and it would seem to me that we should be considering trying to get access to that for more affordable housing, recognizing that sometimes affordable housing is going to cost us money. We just
Correct.
understand that.
Yeah, and what we typically, what you see in municipalities' role in affordable housing is contributing a spot for affordable housing. So, you know, a municipality gives somewhere for the units to go, like land, and then we would like to see that the provincial government provide the money to actually put the homes. And then then there's the other issue of housing authority and, you know, who manages them and such. But we did meet with Denise, I want to say last week, very recently, maybe the week before, to talk about advocating to the government because she has seen a need for affordable housing and because they offer subsidies. So they run the subsidy program. And just from what they've seen and the needs they've seen. So we are in, Hans is back to training, but Hans and I did meet with her and talking about how we could work together to advocate the government to show our need, right? And one of the big issues with Drayton Valley specifically is that the government will base their subsidy for individuals on and a kind of a provincial average of what they say a unit should cost or the average rent should be. So if somebody comes and says, hey, I'm low income, they show exactly that they can qualify for subsidy, then part of that calculation is based on what the average rent costs in Alberta. The problem is Drayton Valley is above the average, so it leaves that gap. So we have sort of two issues, that being one, and then just general demand being another.
Great, you're on top of it. Thank you very much. That's great.
Absolutely.
The other question I have is on page 31. It has to do with outdoor recreation. At 2020, we had a budget of 662,000. Where the year to date on is 268,000. Is that, maybe I'm missing what outdoor recreation is.
All our outdoor mowing, maintenance, all our summer students, our manager of Parks and Recreation, all that goes in there. All our, a lot of our beautification kind of stuff, yeah. And you see there as well, like it is behind, but again, that's another example of where July is when you really see the costs ramp up. But yes, that is what's in outdoor recreation.
Okay, so, but our 2023 budget was 332 and in 2020 it was 662. That's,
No,
those numbers seem to be a little bit funny to me.
sorry. So let's go over here. So if you look at the top, you have 2022 actual. Then you have budget 2023, which is the entire budget for the whole year. And then you have budget year to date. So the whole budget for 2023 is actually 665, which is slightly higher than the actual for 2022.
Yeah.
So the year to date being what we'd expect the budgeted amount to be as of June 30th, not for the whole year.
Does
Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes
Okay.
sense. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Perfect. Any other questions before we move on? Councillor Gamana?
Thank you. This question is regarding Parks and Recreation as well. So I understand that, year to date is close, but not very close for revenues as well. Just wondering if that's kind of the trend we had last couple of years as well.
Outdoor recreation revenues
Not only outdoor, but
in general? Oh, in
in
general. Yeah, I think we see slightly more revenue in the fall, in the
fall.
winter. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it's significant, but especially at the MCC, we see almost all our revenue, I shouldn't say almost all, but probably 75% of our revenue comes in the winter time. Yeah, so that's not unusual. The numbers, the way we're seeing it is quite acceptable. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Since we discussed about the housing authorities and all that, I think it's prudent for us to have a conversation as a council. I don't think we've had that conversation, so maybe administration, if you could, I guess, figure a time frame for that and then have a conversation about, because it's becoming an important issue in our community. Thank you.
Thanks.
And Travis goes under protective services, right, for those?
Correct. Goes under protective services and then into a reserve.
And then into reserve. And then where does it show to our reserve for the infrastructure levy that we did the 5%?
It won't show up on our income statement reports. I put those into the reserve at the end of the year.
Okay.
And so, I don't have, the reserve balances don't change throughout the year. I just do one calculation at the end of the year. And then the reserves change like that. So at budget time, I'll bring back all the
Those-
information. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, go ahead to move to capital if you'd like.
Thank you. So, we've started working on multiple projects now. First off, the Civic Center boiler, replacement. Really good news story there. We saved quite a bit of money there because we had someone in-house that was qualified and had their ticket to be able to do the boiler replacement. So we're really happy with that. Common services mobile equipment. So, so far we've ordered the, sweeper, I believe. But it won't be arriving until January. And then we have the side-by-side and, the forks that we purchased so far. Town beautification, we're just ramping up on that project. So we have quite a bit of work left to do in that project. Server replacement, still working on it, not fully completed. And then you see the next two projects, which are the CETC projects. So those will be worked on once we have a growth services manager in place. So we're just on hold on that right now. The fire pumper, we're still working on the specs and ordering and putting the RFD out. We're not expecting that one to arrive this year. That one is a bigger project to actually, from ordering to getting it here. I'm just gonna go through sort of the ones we have been working on. CPO vehicle we've purchased. We got a really good deal out of it. So we didn't use the whole budget. Parks and recreation program. So that's for the Ivantoe Park disc golf expansion. And I believe that is completed now and people are starting to play on it. And we're hearing really, really good things. Both from, I had internally staff that went to play it and said that really good things. And then I also personally had people talk about the expansion and being excited to play on it. So I think that'll go over really well in the community this summer. And then down to 50th Ave. So just starting some of the costs you see there is just starting on some of the engineering and consulting costs. Aquatic facility, we are just about wrapping up the final payment. We'll see it come in less than 1% over budget. I believe it's very, very close. So it's quite exciting that that project's finally wrapping up. The landscaping is looking beautiful out there, and it's amazing how different the facility looks with landscaping rather than just bare ground. New cell construction, that one is on its way now, but the cost you saw as of June 30th was just the prep work and the consulting fees. Maraw Pond expansion, same, it's just the assessment, no actual work done on the expansion. Again, we have to bring that forward because the scope of that project is vastly different than what we expected it when we brought it forward in 2022 or 2021 for 2022. The command truck is here, just some modifications being done. Water distribution line, virtually no cost so far. Just Shelley's starting to do some work on that project. And that's it for June. But if you look at the bottom, as of the date this project or this capital summary was created, which was, I believe, last week, we were at 1,688,000. So we are starting to see costs ramp up. Any questions on those projects?
Councillor Evans?
The audiovisual equipment for both the CETC and the MCC, they arrived? Okay, excellent, because yeah, both of them were absolute garbage. Nice to see them replaced, especially when we're booked with weddings and stuff. I mean, I had nightmares thinking about people trying to yell into those microphones like we saw when we were there. The other question I had was, the water distribution line connection. Shelley, we gonna be able to get that complete this year, do you think? Yeah, you're not gonna want to open that up once it gets cold, eh? Gotcha, but the actual construction and the major construction will probably be held over, eh? Okay, fair enough. That was all my questions.
Thank you for that. Councillor Kamana?
Thank you. I think we had a little bit of offline conversation about this, but the security cameras, would they be done this summer or? Yes. They will be. Perfect. Okay. And server replacement, I think we got the last couple of servers in. Are they in or did we work on them?
I believe 2 servers arrived, Nathan, is that correct? 2 of our servers? Yeah. Yeah, so we're considering a hybrid approach to our servers where we put some things in the cloud, sort of possibly the more critical ones, and then keeping some physically here. And that way we could have the convenience, I guess, or the safety of a cloud hosting, but have a hybrid price because cloud hosting is actually fairly expensive, but we see the need to go in that direction. And so trying to evaluate, okay, so what should we keep on our servers or what's sort of safe enough to keep on our servers and what should we be hosting in the cloud? So we're just kind of reevaluating our approach to the way we store our data.
Okay, yeah, no, definitely. I was just wondering, so we are recalibrating how many servers we need here as well?
Correct.
We budgeted. for
Correct.
So many, right?
Yeah, and so depending on the cost impact, we'll bring it to budget for 2024. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor McGee.
Just a quick question on 50th. We closed off the street. We've opened it again. What do we tell the citizens right now on that particular project?
I'm going to have Shelley bring an update to council and close today. And so we'll go over some challenges. Yeah.
So when we look at the capital budget summary, how are we feeling for getting the projects done this year? Like, what are you kind of seeing that might not get done this year on this list and be carried over till next year?
Just from quickly looking at it, the fire pumper, we weren't expecting necessarily to get it this year, but we won't be receiving that. Maybe even till 2026. Tom, can you? But that's one. I think that's fine. Yeah, that one we won't be having delivered this year. Expecting, so I'm going to pick out the larger projects here. So the fire pumper addressed, Park Valley Pool repurpose, we're working on that. So I have no reason to believe that we won't get that done. The first phase of that, of course, that's budgeted. Sidewalks and trails, we're looking to have that phase 1 completed this year. Of course, it's not the entire project because we put some into the next year so we could work out the zoning and that kind of stuff for the DB lands. 50th Ave, hoping for phase 1. We'll talk about that some more. Cell 3 rehab, we're gonna get done. The new waste landfill cell will get done. And then I think the bigger one is the wastewater, or the water distribution line connection. That's a bigger one that we're gonna not have completed this year. In terms of the other ones, I don't see any others that that we know we won't get completed. There's nothing here. If and when I feel that we won't, I will be updating council at that point.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And then did you want to move on now to this little report?
Yeah, so the citizens request portal is very actively being used and we are really happy with that. I'm just grabbing. Here we go. So we see the top 5 issue types are waste collection. So it's 17% down from 30% and 37% in 2022. Road repair, potholes, snow and ice, 14% of the complaints or issues. General inquiries, 10%. Parks and open spaces is 8%, and potable water is 8%. So the graph here shows the breakdown of all the requests that have come in, and it's quite small to read. But yeah, you can see like the bigger ones that I just brought up, they being the bigger pies at the bottom. We also have specifics like grass cutting, weeds, utility billing, stormwater, wastewater, aquatic facilities, and such. So this is really good for us because we know ahead of time what people are most concerned about, I guess. And then the other page, you see another graph, and this is about how requests are coming in. So 44% are from the portal. Note that the Civic Center front desk staff use the portal to enter requests from in-person or phone calls. So at the beginning, we wanted every single request to be going through our portal, but we didn't want to discourage people from, we didn't not want to discourage people from calling, but when they called, we didn't want to say, hang up and go now on your computer or on your phone and report it. We wanted to be able to take their concerns on the phone, but still be able to track it. So what's happening is when the concern comes in on the phone, if we can't directly transfer immediately to the person that they need, then our front desk enters it into the system so that it still gets tracked. And so you have, out of the entire, all our issues and complaints, and that you have 44% that are from the portal and 35 on the phone. So it's really, for the time of how long we've had this online, it's quite impressive, I think, how many people are actually using that system. It's very good. And it allows us to track issues. And so some things that are not on there was just the amount of requests, I guess, by quarter. And so we went live in August last year. And so for Q4 of 2022, we had 219 people use it. In Q3 of 2021, we only had 171. So whatever the reason is, slower, probably spring being less, you know, in the winter, you see a lot of the snow and the ice and that kind of thing. And in the summer, you see like the parks and the potholes and that kind of stuff. So it's just probably the time frame of when you have less complaints. And then Q2, we had 251 of 2023. So we had 251 people use the online portal. So I asked about resolution time, and it's a little bit tricky because of the, if for example, someone puts a complaint in on Friday or Saturday, let's say, then if we address it on Monday, which is our protocol, then the system says it was 3 days. It took you 3 days to resolve it. And so you have that kind of issue. And then a lot being resolved on first contact, which pulls the stats the other direction. But we can say that 19% are resolved in the first hour. So a lot of them are very simple things that you can resolve right away. And then if we just simply look at the stats the way they are without taking into consideration some of the unique things that might pull it in either direction, 51% are closed in 48 hours. And then of course, the rest would be at least responded to within several days. So not all issues can be resolved within 40 hours. So like if somebody has like a big complaint or like a side, you know, resolve meaning that we've dealt with or addressed the issue, but not all of them can be resolved. And ones that can't be resolved, I guess, where it's a complaint like build a fence somewhere, and we're like, well, we can't do that. Then we would report the item closed once we had that conversation and we had responded to that person. And then the other kind of thing that we're working on right now is that the sometimes the website doesn't force you to enter it forces you to enter a telephone number into that space, but you can mistype it and it doesn't correct it. So there are sometimes where we see that we cannot respond to the person because the phone number is not accurate. So that's an issue too sometimes. And I'm working with Ken right now to see what our options are in that regard. Like maybe we can have multiple lines of, like maybe we can ask for a phone number and an email, but not everyone has an email. And so there's some tricky parts to that. But overall, we're very happy. This makes things a lot easier for our staff to be able to respond and check off things as they go through. So that's it for the citizen request portal. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor McGee?
It's a timely report for me because I did get a call on next door neighbor on Monday. And so I took it to the front desk and I think it got entered through Sue at the front desk. And so I don't know what the resolution was or if anybody's responded. But I think for the citizens to know that a lot of the complaints or a lot of the questions you might have about unsightly neighbor or parking trailers and those kinds of things, we work on a complaint base. We're not actually, you know, driving around doing a lot of that work. And so I think that's all the things that I would put on, that it's important for them to know that if you have a complaint, get it in.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was gonna bring this up with the team to possibly do another push on social media to, you know, to save the link or the website and so that to use it at your convenience. So I definitely we could add that, you know, there are issues we just you can't see or we don't know. So actually telling us is a good thing. It's not, we're not gonna, like, we want to know what you're seeing and what you're unhappy with because we can't change it unless people say it, right? So having some sort of language in there to really encourage people to come forward is really important. So yeah, we'll do another push on social media.
Yes, that's exactly what I've said.
So we don't regularly put posts out saying,
I want to say we do probably once a quarter or so to just put it to the top. The challenge with social media is that we do so much advertising and so many posts that sometimes when you post a lot of times in a day, things get lost on there and people's feeds. So balancing it with a day when we don't have 5 other posts is really important as well. But yeah, I don't know exactly. We've done a few pushes since August. So I would venture to guess about once a quarter that we do another push on the citizens request. But I think it's about time to do another one. So we're gonna talk with the team on that.
thank you very much for that, Councillor Germano.
Thank you. No, it's very encouraging to see the numbers, Elvira. Great to see that the community is using it. But I think, you know, sorry, like Councillor Maggie mentioned, putting it out there again, not only social media, maybe even on the free press, we have that thing, right? You know, and on our LED board as well, just to get that out there as much as possible. I feel like once the community get used to it, they will keep using it. It just getting there is the part that we need to work on. The other question, I guess the question that I have is about the response times. I know you've given some numbers there, but I was wondering, you know, from the submission to the first contact, do we have some kind of a time goal on that, or what kind of targets have we set?
I believe I have to go look at our customer service directive again, but I believe it's 48 hours. Yeah.
Okay.
But I can bring that back as well to talk about, but I believe it's 48 hours because that's sort of in general what we encourage. Like that's kind of the directive we use internally for emails, everything like that, like get to them within 48 hours. You might not be able to accomplish what is being requested, but certainly you can get in touch with the individual to say, we've received your email or your request. So 48 hours, I want to say, is the time frame.
Right, and I believe that as soon as they submit something, they get a kickback email.
Correct.
Right? You know,
So a lot of them are addressed with before, like I said, like If it's a phone call, a lot of questions get resolved right away within the first hour, and even some on the portal, like some requests, like if it's something simple that can be resolved within the hour, a lot of them are, because we do have staff that receive the complaints and it gets put into a work order and then it gets resolved like quite quickly. But it's some of the more complex ones that take a little bit longer sometimes.
Right, and also putting the information, how many requests we are getting and all that stats to the community too.
Oh, I see.
Will help that, right? You know, we've got this many, we've resolved this many, and all of that. So the committee knows that, you know, if you go through this portal, may be quicker to get things resolved.
Okay, yeah, we'll look into that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just a question too, and then maybe for the people that are online, when I go to the Town of Drayton Valley website and I type in citizen request portal, nothing comes up. So what would be if I was a citizen? What am I typing in? What am I looking for? How am I accessing it online? I get nothing found when I search it. So
I'm going to ask Jen, do you know?
yeah, and then maybe we can just do a post, just if we're trying to get the word out. I know we were told in the past, but now that we're kind of, excuse me, talking about it again, it'd be nice to know where I go when I'm needing to access that, right?
Yeah, no, I will write that down and we will incorporate that into our post. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. If there's no other questions, is there a member of council that would like to make a motion to receive this as information? Council Sheriffs?
Make a motion that council receives this for information.
Or approve the Q2 financial report and update for information?
Yes.
Thank you very much for that. All in favor? That is carried. And we'll move along the agenda to 9.6, the Welcome to Town of Drayton Valley sign. Ms. Terry?
Good morning, Madam Mayor and members of council. So during the 2023 budget deliberation, the Town of Drayton Valley approved a budget for a Wayfinder sign and a Welcome to Town of Drayton Valley sign to be placed at the 50th Street and Highway 22 intersection. The budgeted amount allocated for both of these projects is $110,000, with $25,000 needing to come from donations for the Wayfinder sign. This project was to enhance the appearance of this town entrance. Based off Blanchette's presentation on the welcome sign, administration is looking for direction from council on which design and location to move forward with. Once a design and location has been decided on, administration will be able to finalize install costs for decision at a later date. Installation costs will be based off of the design picked. I'm going to open it up to you guys from there on questions, and they're still here to help out.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. So we'll open it up for questions. Councillor Evans, go ahead.
So Shelley, for now, you're just looking for a decision on what design we like best.
Correct.
The short, wider one or the tall, narrower one?
And the location,
And the
whether it's on the
location.
northwest or the southwest corner of that
Gotcha.
intersection.
Okay.
One thing just to clarify, so we could pick either sign and put them at the other location than was presented?
Is that the one that is?
Oh, the way it's facing.
Not the best option for McDonald's.
Okay,
Just because of blocking and things like that, visibility. That would be our recommendation.
okay. No, I just wanted to clarify so we were all on the same page. Thank you.
Councillor Evans?
That's too bad because I like the vertical sign and I like the location where you're recommending we don't put it. So how strongly are you against having that vertical sign there? Is it a sightline issue that you feel it might be a sightline when people are coming up to the intersection there?
Yes.
Yeah, they might make us put some golden arches on top of it or something.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Counselor Gamata?
Sorry, thank you. For my understanding, how much did we budget initially and?
For the sign alone, it was only 60,000. And then the Wayfinder sign was 50,000 with a $25,000 donation.
Right, so there's 110,000
If you combine
combined.
the two.
So it should be enough
budgets.
for one, but we are proposing two here, right? And then going back to Council Evans' question, regarding the McDonald's, I guess your vision is to have like we have a picnic area and all that, so they will go there, there will be a QR code, it will be accessible. And if we put that vertical one, then we won't be able to do that, right? That's kind of why, okay.
Well, we could add the QR code to, is that what you're asking? Sorry.
We could add it, but it will be way up higher, so it will be hard to. Okay, is it doable that, Sure, thank you.
Counselor McGee?
Well, quite frankly, I wasn't prepared at this moment to make a decision on a placing of a sign. But now that it's here before us, I'm partial to the, I'm going to use the word Canadian Tire Hill, which is opposite of where Councillor Evans is going. But I don't know if are we done with our research? Or we know that this is, because the recommendation is to go down onto the McDonald's land. I'll use that. And I don't know if that's the highest and best use of that land, is a sign and picnic tables. I don't know what else we could do. But it may be that if I was going to talk to the franchise owner and say, well, we got this piece of property. How do you want us to handle it? Are you okay with a sign and some picnic tables, or do you see a way better and a way different look at that piece of property than a sign and picnic tables? I'm just not sure.
Well, certainly seeing that they were using it as a parking lot right now.
Yeah,
But yeah, it is kind of an awkward piece of land for sure. And so what else we could do there is, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, and there's certain setbacks from the highway with Alberta Transportation that we have to take in consideration with what we do there. So, yeah, some of that is actually on their property.
Right, and there's been some consideration of a tourism booth or a place to get information. That's the QR code. There's that kind of thing that's there as well. So that could be what we do. I'm just a little bit not ready to push the button. But that's just me.
Counselor Evans, did you have another question?
Yeah, I like the other location up on the hill. I think it gives a good view. I'm just looking at access. Will we get people parking on the other side of the road and walking up that hill, or parking in the Canadian Tire parking lot to use the QR code? I just think we'd get more people kind of spying it in front of in the other location and then turning in there. And we might also pick up customers from those businesses along there too. I like the other location for the exposure and sitting up on the hill, but I just look at access. And I was chatting with Shelley about this, is there any way that we have enough land there that we could build a little turn-in just down at the bottom of the hill there, but it's too tight. There's just not enough room, and there's that bit of drainage there right on the corner. All the drainage goes in there and then runs away. So again, it's really just access that is the reason that I'm in support of the other location. If we're going to use that QR code, we need people to be able to walk up, take a picture of it.
Counselor Gamata?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna make it even confusing, but I was just So I agree with Councillor Evans' comments, on the other side, the hill accessible issues there, right? And also on the other side of McDonald's. And we've talked about this side of the highway too, where there's some space on McDonald's side, right? So I feel like there'll be more use if it is on this side of the highway where it's on the town side, not on the across the highway where you have to walk, all the McDonald's customers may use it, but would people just go there, park there and all of that, right? So have we looked at on the other side as well? And is it doable to
The McDonald's side or
on the other side?
On the Husky side, I believe he's saying.
Yeah.
we did look at that.
There were a few issues with that, the trees approaching from.
We know if it'd be.
Yeah.
From the side was obstructed, that completely weighed in. So that was an option. There was limited access, in the parking lot there. We were worried about congestion. From a mobility standpoint, the other side was better.
Okay, thank you. And I'm struggling as well about the usage of that land. Is it the best use for just to put a sign and some seats there, right? Or can we do something else? And if you're 100% sure we can't do anything else, of course, this is a way to go. But if not, we would like to, have a little bit of a discussion on what else can we do there.
So if I could so a couple things I just want to clarify or bring to council's attention. So we had 2 signs budgeted. We are proposing 1 sign that accomplishes both purposes. So then this would be, if you don't want either, then we have to relook at the project entirely, and then what council's expectation is in terms of this project. What do we do going forward? Because it is an approved project on our budget. And so so I just wanted to, because I know there was a couple comments on 1 or 2, and I just wanted to make sure that we were understanding that the recommendation is to do a welcome to Drayton Valley sign and the wayfinding sign, kind of an adaptation to it, but in one, and then you would just need 1 location. So if we were to do both these, then we would be picking multiple corners there.
Yeah.
But now we're proposing 1.
Just one, yeah.
Yeah, for me, I'm the same. I don't know if I'm ready to make a decision. I think of going back when we started the conversations back with the town beautification plan, and we looked at, how we wanted to do that in the budget. I know that going back the previous year, when we looked at the Welcome to Drayton Valley sign, we had 3 other proposals brought to council right around that $50,000-$60,000. And we just weren't happy with the design. So we said, go back and get us some more designs. I think, so for me, that's what the expectation was, right around that 50,000 mark to get that Welcome to Drayton Valley sign with a local company using that. And I think that we looked at, sorry, I keep losing my voice. I think we looked at replacing existing signs that we had. Like when I look at our entrances to the town, I look at beautifying the entrances to town. When you come on the south side of town, you have the derricks there. We have flowers, everything like that. On the west side of it, definitely needs some work there. I think, putting a little bit of money into that, planting some other trees or greenery, mowing it, whatever. I think that is a great way to come into the community. And then when you come from the north end town, we bought a sign and put it there. Like we invested already in a sign coming from the north end, and you could see it. I look at even, with the festive lights, adding a few lights there or something, so it just kind of brightens it up a bit. But then I look at, I think for me, when the discussions happened a few years ago, that Welcome to Drayton Valley was on the Husky side or it was on the Boston Pizza side. It was one or the other where there is signs that are faded, and it was that replacement. So now coming back and going to a sign that's double the budgeted price and putting it to a different location. Yeah, I'm just struggling a bit because I'm looking at beautifying our entrances. And I think that with having the signs that we already have that are existing and welcoming into the community are great. I think you could throw a little bit more money with some flowers and trees to spruce that up. maybe some grass and some flowers at the other entrances for a lot less. So yeah, I think I'm just struggling with the 112 or 120,000 for a welcome sign when we have welcome signs already. And the Wayfinder sign, I know that came out of the sustainability as I think it was a project that was first started with EPBR and tourism and oh my gosh, what's Free Press is Brazo and Beyond and things like that, of just identifying and recognizing in the community of, the Brazo Dam is here, something fun. Also, it came as incorporating that, that 5% or 2% of art into our community. So I'm definitely not ready to make a decision today because I think there needs to be a bit more clarity on where these conversations stemmed from and started. And when I look at the town beautification, I just think that there's other areas that I think that we need to improve for a lot lesser money, and rather than going to double of what that Welcome to Drayton Valley signage was.
So I just want to clarify again, the reason why it's more is because we're combining the concept of the
Yeah, I get
wayfinding
that.
sign.
I get
So we could just drop the wayfinding sign and do a $60,000 sign, sure. Would it be $60,000 what we spent last time? I'm not sure, but certainly the cost is more because of the incorporation of that interactive piece.
Yeah.
So if you just want a welcome sign and keep that, so this is just a creative way of accomplishing two pieces of council's budget into one and having one location. So we have options, like we can just do a welcome sign if that's what council wants. And we can even do two signs, but would we be able to do it with $60,000? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We'd have to go back and look. I know costs are up, but that's what we budgeted for. But I don't want it to get confused that we're proposing to go 50,000 over budget on a welcome sign. What we are proposing is combining it and doing a bigger sign. So,
Yeah.
so that's where the conversations came from, was we were talking about two different signs, and as things went on,
Yeah.
it just trying to be, to take wayfinder signs like elsewhere, like what are people using, what's out there, and then just trying to be ahead of the curve on the QR code thing. So it's, yeah, I mean, either way, the signs are in the budget. So if council wants to rescope those dollars elsewhere, certainly we can talk about that as well.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I get that. I'm just kind of going back to the year's discussions. And for me, it is $120,000 welcome sign when we already have two other, right, welcome signs. Any response? Oh, okay. Did the presenters have any responses to kind of any of the questions or concerns, I guess?
So I appreciate all of your thoughts. I think when considering where to move from the traditional wayfinding that you were looking at, today is the first time that we understood that there's an art component in there. If council wants to see something as far as redesigns, we could go back to the drawing board. As you were saying, amalgamating these two to make it more powerful and a big wow factor, rather than two in a location that is quite close to each other, was part of the process. We don't see this as a welcome sign for Drayton Valley. We see this as a community sign. This is very different than your entrance welcome signs. This would be the community engagement piece, the messaging piece that is missing from those other signs. And I fully respect that you don't want to make a decision now, and I encourage you to keep looking into it. This is a conversation that has evolved over time, and it is very different than what you had come with to the table for regarding your budgets and your past conversations. But just know that we can go to our art team, we can take feedback, I can connect with Shelley again, and we could put together some other renderings for you to meet the needs that you're truly looking for. This was just our recommendation based on our discoveries over the past few months. Thank you.
Councilor Sheriff?
I don't have a question for you. I just have a comment.
Okay.
I think it's been years in making, and we've been trying to decide what to do with that piece of land. And judging by what Shelley is saying, there isn't very much we can do with it except for putting a sign and picnic tables, making it kind of, social little spot. So I would actually be in favor of I'm making some sort of decision and giving direction to administration to move forward with this instead of just coming back every few months and being in the same spot, because it has been years in making. And I do like the idea of this sign and the possibility of revenue coming in from advertisement from companies, right? There is that option. It does open possibilities, having that digital sign and messages. So I would be in favor of trying to make a decision today.
I just question what the intent was. We have a downtown sign that was created for advertising and to make revenue, so why aren't we utilizing that? That's just when we already have that sign, right? Counselor Cabana?
I was just, again, trying to go back to the initial conversation that we had. I think we are looking at a wayfinder sign near the Omniplex where to show, there's the aquatic facility, there's the gold diamonds and all of that, right? That's my recollection.
No,
I'm sorry.
in the beautification presentation that I had found
Right.
from previous administration, it had said that the Wayfinder sign was always going to be by McDonald's location. And that was, I think, presented to you guys in 2021,
Okay.
2021, 2022, somewhere in there.
No, I think it was at the pool because the idea actually came through sustainability and it actually came from Brandy. It was a conversation over a coffee. And that's where it came, as celebrating the community, and it sat at sustainability and then got moved into the budget. It was at the Omniplex.
That's what
Yeah.
I can recall anyway, so.
Yeah. I'm just basing off the presentation that I
Yeah.
had found from when it came to council.
Right, and in my mind, that makes more sense, the sign is very nice. And I like the layout and all of that and technology. It just, is this the location that we can make use of it so much, right? So that's kind of, I'm struggling. Where if it was near the Omniplex with the Wayfinder sign, there will be community members and outside people come in there as well to see our community, and they can see what's around there, right? That's, I think, was the initial vision that we had. And there was another discussion about welcome signs too. And I believe that administration is trying to put 2 and 2 together, right? So.
I'm just pulling up the operating project or the capital project that was presented during 2023's budget deliberations. And it says Mohawk, Wayfinder sign at Mohawk for estimated cost of.
Not
$50,000.
Wayfinder, that was the welcome sign, because there's a welcome sign there and there's a welcome sign at the Dairy Queen, and it was a way to clean them up, right? These are conversations, I think, going back 3-4 years where it started.
Yeah, I can't speak to what the conversations were before, but I can just speak to why this direction was taken this time, is because that was the project that was approved. And so we can certainly go back if we know that there was further conversations, but I'm just pulling this up just to make sure that we were on the same page and knowing why those locations were considered, is because that was the locations in the project proposals. But I can't speak to the Omniplex or that because I wasn't around for those conversations,
So lots of questions, lots of ideas, concerns and everything. I think what we're kind of split, there's a part of council that wants to move forward with it, a part of council that's, a bit undecided on what they want to do. So I think that we're going to need to have a motion in order to move forward or table it or something. So I'm not sure if anybody's willing to make that motion today or decision. Sure, go ahead. Councillor Evans?
I'll make the motion that we select the shorter sign and look at installing it in front of McDonald's there and get Public Works to give us the other details on supplying power, et cetera, to it.
Thank you very much for that. So there's a motion. I'll ask if there's any comment, question, or debate on the motion. Who wants to go first?
I guess the thing to me, this sign versus our welcome signs, I mean, this generates revenue, like you said, Monica. So there will be an ROI there of, 4 or 5 years maybe. So it's going to pay for itself, right? And then in the long term, we're gonna probably generate a little revenue from that, hopefully. I know what other digital signs cost. I have advertised on them and they're expensive. So I mean, I think it'd be pretty easy to get enough people on there, and if not, quite a few, and pay this off quicker than 4 or 5 years. So for me, that makes sense. I like that aspect of it. I do like the vertical sign. Don't like the location it's at. I do like the McDonald's location. And I do really think that there really are not many uses. There's pipelines under there. There's all kinds of things, right? So I kind of feel like we're pretty hamstrung there in terms of what we can do. So in the absence of something, in the near future, I think this is a good option there. So.
Councillor McGee?
One last point. Has anybody talked to McDonald's? Thank you.
Thank you for that question.
I had an opportunity to speak with the owner of the McDonald's at that location. He was very open to having something done with the land that was up front there. He obviously sees it as a win for him and said he was more than happy to work with the town and was excited to have an opportunity there to have, picnic tables, community engagement, that type of thing. So for him, it was a win-win across the board. He had no hesitations and was open to further conversations as it evolved.
Well, it would seem to me it makes a lot of sense for him to be engaged with a check.
Exactly.
So it becomes a project with Bob and bigger and brighter. Because in reality, it's a piece of land that could be a spot to sit.
Mhm.
Although it's piece. So I kind of like the point that's being motions on the floor to have to revisit signs again at this point in time. Let's give this a go and have a broader conversation with it.
So when I look at the design and it shows grass here, isn't it all cement?
Yeah, we would have to mill that out.
We'd
and
have to mill that out,
back-
plant, and so there would be that additional piece there.
And that's just a rendering, just to kind of demonstrate what could be done with it. If it's preferred by the town to keep it maintenance-free, that might be an option too. It would depend on what you and your team would want to do.
Councillor Kamana?
Yeah, no, for me, I think, the motion on the floor, of course, we are not telling the administration to go ahead. This is to bring the information back. I think that is okay to do, but we need to look at a broader discussion about, where else that can fit, whether it's vertical or horizontal or all of that during that period when you bring the next information to the council. If you could look at as a bigger picture item where considering both sides, Omniplex, and then suggesting to council or recommending to council what's best. But other than that, to get things done, to get things moving forward, I think that the motion at the floor is okay in my.
So my understanding that the motion is on the table to accept the design option. The option was picked and the location was picked, so. That,
No, I have to come back with finalized costs.
At that time, you can probably bring the other information that we requested.
Yep, we can look into it for sure.
Okay.
okay, so there's a motion been made. Yeah, I have a really hard time getting behind this one, like I said, for all my reasons, and it is what it is, right? I think it's part of our beautification plan that we talked about here, and I know that some councillors are anxious to move it forward. I just have a hard time justifying that amount of money, I think, going into a sign when, like I said, we have other signs that at both of our entrances, and that we also have a downtown sign that if the community is wanting to advertise, they can on that. So that's kind of where I stand, but a motion is on the table, and I will ask all in favor, all opposed, and that is carried. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
that. We will move on to 9.7. Ms. Terry again for slope failure on Ring Road, Range Road 73.
So in 2012, the town of Drayton Valley annexed county property. The town acquired a piece of land along the ring road, Range Road 73. In 2016, a slope failure occurred on a steep creek bank that borders Township Road 493 and Range Road 73. The town of Drayton Valley fixed that failure by adding a drainage ditch of rock, which is held in place over the years. Unfortunately, a secondary failure has occurred further south of the original failure location, and you can see in the picture. Lost where I am. The mode of failure is currently unknown, and administration would like to proceed with getting a geotechnical analysis completed on the mode of failure and recommendation on a permanent solution from a qualified consultant. In 2022, council approved a budget for infrastructure assessment. This budget was in place to investigate and collect necessary information for the purpose of wastewater treatment upgrades. Administration has completed this part of the work and has a remaining budget of approximately $87,000. Administration is requesting that council approve to rescope this budget to complete the necessary investigation and potentially repair the slope failure in question. The risks to this, if the slope continues to get deeper into the bank, there is risk that Township Road 493 could start to slide with the bank shutting down that road. Service level implication, Township Road 493 could be impacted substantially, and residents in the area could lose access to this road. I've aligned this with the sustainable infrastructure planning just to figure out what the mode of failure is and how we can correct it from ever happening again. So I'm asking if council would rescope OP 26 infrastructure assessment to complete necessary work on the slope failure located on Range Road 73.
Thank you very much for that. Any questions? Councillor Sheriff?
I have a question regarding the $87,000 financial implication. Is that just to investigate why it happened, or is that? does that
Right now, I
include-
don't know. Generally, to do like an assessment of this, it's probably around the 20,000 mark.
Okay.
Just to figure out what the mode of failure is, if it's the toe of the slope, what can be implicated to solve the problem. So I'm hoping that we can absorb a lot of the cost in this 87,000 for repair as well, but that is unknown at this time, and I'll bring it back to council once we know what the mode of failure is.
Oh, I was just making sure that 87,000 isn't just to investigate the cause.
No,
'cause
no. That's just what's
As I'm
remaining
reading this,
left
like,
in
it's
that.
a little steep.
That's just what's remaining in that budget currently, and hopefully I can absorb most of the cost to do all of it through
Mhm.
that.
Councillor Evans?
So on the other side, the side that was rebuilt there, Shelley, did they like cut a keyway into the bottom there and then fill that with big rock to stabilize it?
Yeah, it's in a drainage ditch. basically,
Yeah.
So the water would run instead of pushing the slope down.
Yeah, yeah.
Right now, I'm unsure if it's just a superficial slough on the surface, but until I get geotechnical analysis done, I'm not going to know what the mode of failure is at this point.
Yeah, it looks pretty deep up the top there. And that's a long slope. I don't know whether you'd just stabilization of the bottom would hold it all the way up there, or if you gotta pound some piles in there or what you gotta do, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
need to
pretty ugly.
investigate what we need to do there, so.
okay, yeah, I wouldn't tell them you got 87,000.
No, never.
Just,
That's just, of course,
get them
not.
to give you a price.
Those conversations.
Councillor McGee?
I'm trying to place where it's at. I see at the bottom, there's it looks like a guardrail, and then I see at the top, it looks like another guardrail. So I'm not sure quite what I'm looking for.
So it's in the coulee, right across from HW pickup. It'd be on the east side of Range Road 73.
East
You're
side.
heading north, yeah.
You're heading north.
The guardrail up top is the road that goes around
That's
No.
Township Road 493, yeah.
back to the ski hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, I got it.
Why do I think we did work on this like a couple years ago?
I know we did, because
We did.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
'cause
seen
I
the work
remember.
done. I actually talked to Parkway because they were the ones that did the work.
So is there any sort of warranty or any sort of
Well,
guarantee or?
they didn't do this part of the slope. The only part of the slope they did was further north, where that rock
Rock is,
channel is.
okay, because I was wondering where the rock channel is. It's further to the north.
That's what Parkway implemented when the initial failure happened,
Okay,
and it was
gotcha.
further north. Now we've got one further south.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so this is just different. Okay.
Yeah.
But not losing sight of the question, somebody built this. And somebody built the high school or the
Mhm.
junior high school. And they don't take responsibility for any of these things?
I mean, grounds shift. I mean, we're experiencing the same thing along Cell 6 at the wastewater plant that borders that same creek because of how steep that slope is.
So when we have projects like this, like say to the north where we did have Parkway, if that fails, what type of warranty or guarantee do we have?
It was probably only a 2-year warranty on
2
that.
years?
Yeah. That's a general rule of
General's
thumb.
2-year? Okay. Is there a member of council who'd like to make a motion? Sure. Okay. Councilor Sheriff?
Better find it. Okay, I'll make a motion that the council approve the rescoping of OP 26 infrastructure assessment to complete the necessary work on the slope failure located on Range Road 73.
Thank you very much for that. Any comment, question, or debate on the motion? And I'll ask all in favor. That is carried. And I think rather than moving into closed, do we want to jump into our department reports? Try to fly through those before lunch? I say fly through those before lunch. Okay, we'll start with 10.1 Corporate Services. Ms. Thompson.
I do not have a report today.
Oh, wonderful. That is flying.
Yeah, look at that. You're welcome.
Thank you very much for that. We'll move to 10.2 Planning and Growth Services. Mr. Vanna.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to say I don't have a report either, but
Oh.
I do. And given our staffing levels, we just combined both planning and growth services together in one report. So hitting the highlights in planning. We have a number of land use bylaw amendments that are coming forward to council. Just and the latest one deals with number 4, which is redoing the purpose and intent or process of the land use bylaws. So that's a first one that we'll be talking with council about later. On the permitting side, we've updated our forms for development permits, subdivisions, and land use bylaw amendments to make them more user friendly. It's interesting when staff can't even go through the application and figure it out. So what we've done is we've simplified it and made it cleaner so that it does more straightforward, and it's a fillable PDF, so you can fill it out online and submit it. The DB lands have come forward. Land and facilities master planning part, we've paused that just simply because the information that we had done to this point, it's not going to achieve what we had intended it to do. But on a side note, we are still moving ahead with our work that is looking at the land valuations for the town lands. So we're moving ahead with that. We should hopefully have that in the middle of August. You met our planner today. For growth services, an update on the industry and market analysis study. So the RFPs have closed. We've received 4 of them. We'll be going through that in the next little bit here to evaluate those proposals and move forward with that process. AJN Investments. So we did meet with them, showed them the site, sent them our information. We have yet to receive any information back from them. Red Deer Polytechnic and Alberta campus are moving ahead with their work. Just a note on staffing in growth services. We're down out of 5 staff. We're down to 1 staff person now. So we have limitations in that department. The couple other items I just wanted to go through on the melt. So there has been some contact with Northern Lakes College on that to try and see if we can utilize local connections with trucking firms and so forth. We still haven't received a response back from Northern Lakes College on that. On the rural renewal stream, as of July 19th, we had 82 applications, 32 endorsement letters were issued to candidates. 6 candidates have arrived from the RRS program. employers are aware of their new employees and have support from FCSS department and community learning for that. Business revitalization program, visitation program. So 7 visitations were done and completed. Small Business Week continues. There's a subcommittee that's working on the October 18th job fair expo. And zero fee tuition. 7 applications are in process, and there's one more anticipated for the October intake. And that concludes my remarks.
Thank you very much for that. Any questions? Councilor Cabana?
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Land use master plan, and you said that, it's in hold until we find some staff, or that's kind of the idea?
We have to review, well, my opinion is that we need to review that in terms of reference. What was anticipated out of that study is not going to give us meaningful information in terms of actually assessing our buildings. Because part of it is you're trying to incorporate it into your asset management work that you're trying to do. And the work done to this point wasn't going to do that. It wasn't going to give you meaningful data in order to incorporate it into the asset management model.
Okay, so just from my understanding, you'll be bringing a new scope to us at some point?
That'll have to wait until the next general manager comes on board.
I feel like that's an important, very important part of our discussions. So,
There is other work that continues on in terms of our, mapping to put all the lands together. So we will have that shortly for council and council's seen a little bit of the work, but we're recategorizing all that in terms of, how much land do we have that's fee simple? How much land do we have that's environmental reserve? How much land do we have that's municipal reserve? So we should have that in a week or so.
thank you. I may, Campus Alberta, I feel like we had those discussions a few months ago, and I'm not sure if we've moved forward with any of the agreements or negotiations. I feel like ball is on our court, and we are waiting. They are waiting for our feedback. What's the status on that?
Madam Mayor, the ball's in Campus Alberta's court. They have to do their business assessment and their survey. And so that ball's in their court to do that. And then they will come back to us, and then we'll have a conversation.
Okay, so just how I understood, Peter, was that, we are doing our business assessment and education assessment ourselves. I was under the impression that they are actually going to use that data to cater to what they're trying to do. I'm confused that, now, are they going to do another redundant one themselves? And why would that be? Because we are doing one, they're doing one. Why can't we do a combined one?
Madam Mayor, Campus Alberta is reviewing they have to do their own business case because they have to justify any new programs to their Board of Governors and the money that they would spend in putting a program together. So that is what they are doing. So they are surveying, and it's probably only like a week ago that I had conversation or email exchange with Campus Alberta and advised them of the conversation that we had with council. And so they are going to reach out to First Nations to see if they can incorporate some programming for them as well. So they're going to factor that into their survey work and their business case.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for your report. We'll move again to Ms. Terry for Municipal Services Department Report 10.3.
Hello, Madam Mayor and members of council. So some of the things that have been going on, I'm going to apologize in advance. I just came back from holidays today. So Hans did put together the report for me. So we did miss our water treatment and distribution update in the report, so I've got it in an email, so I brought my computer along. For the water treatment side of things, we reviewed our semi-annual results, and we were all within compliance with our regulations through the Canadian Drinking Guidelines. Upgrades had taken place on our pilot project that's currently in place at the water plant that Jason Copen had touched base on a while ago. Public Works has repaired a CC on Mackenzie Ave, utilizing our own unit. We have been doing our valve exercising program. So the southwest and northeast and southeast quadrants have been completed, and out of those, I'm going to say about 1,000 valves, we've found 39 valves that have been discovered inoperable or broken. Broken, we've had to replace one on 49th Ave when we operated it, it started leaking. So that was part of our main valve replacement program. We absorbed that cost in. The distribution project is underway with design stages being started. Exploratory work will be happening soon to assist the design. This includes hydrovac work and geotechnical surveying. Acute lethality, I'm hoping soon I'm not going to have to talk about this anymore, as we have passed our first sample on July 18th and just need to pass 2 more. So our next one is scheduled and our numbers have come down nicely. So I'm optimistic. I'm not going to say that I'm certain, but I'm optimistic that we should see 2 more passes pretty quick. Shelter belt, we've been working on that along the bordering property line on the south side, and we've removed 6 spruce trees, dead spruce trees, and are working on the volunteer caraganas that have started growing out of control underneath the shelter belts. So they've been cutting those down and spraying them to prevent them from spreading onto the neighboring property. And spot spraying on the neighboring property has occurred, so we've taken care of the caraganas that have encroached onto that property. As for the landfill, the water treatment plant is assisting the landfill currently with the leachate monitoring, as Sonny's got a lot on his plate right now with all the projects going on, so our crew has jumped in to assist him. Fraternities has started the work on the cell 4D expansion. There was some additional work that we had to do to get to the anchor point to tie the 2 cells together. I believe that has been completed, and they're actually starting to dig out the cell, and everything's going very smooth with that. Monitoring of material at the facilities, Quonset Depot and the recycling shed. So far, there's been no issues reported. Parkway started on the sidewalks project on July 10th. Work is ongoing in various locations. Now for Public Works, the line painting is underway, and unfortunately we've experienced rain in the evenings when the line painters want to come in and do the long lines in the parking stalls. That's kind of out of our control at this point. And we have seen some deficiencies where the paint has peeled, and the company that's doing the work has honored their agreement, and they'll come back in and touch up those areas. We are using an acetone, so it is an oil-based paint this year. It's not the water-based paint. It is approved by Alberta, so we're hoping that it holds up better than the previous years, but we'll find that out. Disc golf expansion, Public Works assist in that, and we've had some pretty good reviews on that thus far. Picnic table pads have begun to be poured, and I think we only have 2 left to pour, and then we'll start installing the new picnic tables that are part of the beautification plan. Rotor-tilling of the playgrounds is completed. Similar work at the Discovery Park beds is ongoing right now with the summer staff. I know that some cleanup's been done at the CTC on the shrub beds on the back deck, and so they've been working hard on that. We have obtained some quotes for a fountain to install over there, and we'll probably utilize that through our beautification plan. And they have added some additional flowers over at the Omniplex that look pretty. I wanted to have pictures, I just didn't get them in time to print them out, so I could show you what Parks has been working hard on, and that's.
Thank you very much for that. Any questions? Councillor Evans?
Did they sweep the street going into the CTC?
I did put in a work order for them to do it. I will confirm with Public Works.
Okay. yeah, just every time I show up there, it's still just loaded with gravel on the street there, and just be nice to get that cleaned up.
For sure. Thank you very much for that. Well, thank you very much for your report. Mr. Hans von Faberen is in a course this afternoon, so I'm sure everybody has read his report. And if there's any questions, please let me know right now before I move on to the communications report. Everything looks good. Then I'll jump ahead to 10.5 communications. Ms. Stone.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
So a couple of things for me, still working away on the citizen budget tool. It is quite a bit of effort to get everything all inputted, working closely with finance to get all the numbers finalized. I'm going to be away for the next couple of weeks. So while I'm away, I'm asking everybody to review their information so that when I come back, we submit it back to citizen budget. They will get it all together. We need about 10 days lead time. So that'll keep us right on track to launch this early September so that we can gather all the data for council's review prior to budget. And so I want to touch on some updates to the immigration website just to make sure that it's clear. We're just continuing to make adjustments and updates as the program rolls out just to make it clear. And of course, we are just trying to keep everybody as informed as we can and answer questions as we go. I did have a quick moment to look into the customer service portal that you had brought up earlier. It was coming up for us. I had a few other staff members just type in the search, and on Google and on our website, it was coming up for us, but I do have a suggestion that I'm going to make to Alvera to maybe make it a little bit easier for people to navigate. And we do have it on the homepage. And also when you click on our contact us on the website, it takes you right to the portal. We're trying to direct everybody to that as much as we can. And yeah, it seems to be going well, and we can just continue with our promotions on that. And also now that Shelley is back, I've been working away on getting the public consultation piece ready for the landfill. So I'm going to leave that in her hands. So then when I come back, we can get rolling on that because that needs to go out right away as well. And I'll leave it there if there's any questions.
Thank you very much for that. Any questions for Ms. Stone? Thank you very much for your report. And just to add that when you do go to the homepage, it's customer service portal. That's what you type in. I was typing in, it's customer service, not citizen service. So it's customer service portal for any complaints, concerns, or issues that anybody's having. Thank you very much for that. And that wraps up our department reports. I'll jump to council reports. Deputy Mayor Gamana.
Okay, you put me off guard there, but thank you. Yeah, a little bit of a down few weeks. Haven't done a whole lot, but on the 14th, I had the opportunity to go to Mighty Learner's grand opening with the rest of the council. And on the 16th, I guess the highlight of the last couple of weeks, at the Drayton Valley Cricket Carnival, I had the opportunity to go there, play a game or two as well. I was a team from Edmonton who came here and played with the Drayton Valley Cricket Club team here. It was a good turnout. I think everybody who turned out had fun. Unfortunately, Drayton Valley team lost, but I think the team will improve for the next year. On the 18th, had the Health Foundation meeting. And on the 19th, had the opportunity to attend a minerals information session. Talked about rare earth minerals and other minerals that Alberta have, and the legislation that they're going to pass. And that's part of the Pembina Area Synergy Group. That's about it from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your report. Councillor Clark.
I don't have a ton to add. Really, since July 1st, had the Canada Day Parade. That should have been, I was gone for the last council meeting, so that was probably talked about. Really, the only other thing I had there was disaster recovery program announcement, and then the ECDEV ad hoc meeting, which I attended there. Other than that, nothing else.
Thank you very much. Councillor Evans.
I had a very quiet 2 weeks since the last council meeting, so I took the opportunity to take pretty much some stay-at-home holiday. So I have nothing to report other than I got my fence all painted, I got my deck all painted, and all the trim on my house painted, and helped my father fix up his house too for about 5 days. So that's what I was up to. Thank you.
Always nice. Counselor Sheriff.
So I attended the Mighty Learners grand opening, and it was great to see that they're already getting busy with all the kids. I had a meeting with education about the MELT program, and from what I understood, the Northern Lakes has acquired a truck already, and they will be starting in September in Slave Lake. So what I thought we should maybe consider is using our CTC classroom and see if Northern Lakes would allow our students to register and join via Zoom. And like in a live classroom kind of. So they're looking into possibility of doing that maybe. And also there's a company here in town that is willing to provide a truck and a trailer and their yard for training. And I'm waiting on a response from the Northern Lakes to see what the requirements are, but they are actually very open to that idea. So we'll see. And then I went quadding for the whole weekend in the mountains and it was awesome. So that was it.
Thank you very much for that. Counselor McGee.
Mayor, the only thing that I did was the Mighty Learners, and that was quite a performance. They served us a ton of food, and we have a new opportunity to put our children in a safe, secure spot. So they're solid citizens.
Thank you very much for that. I myself was on holidays as well, but before that, Ms. Thompson and myself had a couple meetings with the RCMP operations strategy team and discussions with the multi-year financials and meetings, and then as well a few more new business welcomes as well into the community. And that is it for my report. Is there a member of council that would like to make a motion to accept both the department reports and the council reports as information? Councilor Gamana? Thank you very much for that. All in favor? That is carried, and we will break for lunch. When we come back, we'll move into our closed session 9.8.